Hey there, welcome to Coffee Break Plans. Today's video is about how to pick a printed planner. Now the key thing to note today is that when I'm talking about a planner in this particular video, I'm talking about future facing planners. These are the ones that we use to plan all the things coming up, the tasks that we need to get done. I'm not talking about trackers or journals. Okay, so there are a heap of factors that go into picking a printed planner, and I will get to each of them in turn. But I think that the most important thing, and the one that I will spend the most time on today, is the layout. Having the right or the wrong layout can really make or break your planner. So the first thing to really consider with layout is your zoom. What level do you do most of your planning at? And it's generally one of three: monthly, weekly, or daily. And often people will use more than one of those for different purposes. Now most planners have some form of annual layout or a year at a glance. Now it may look like this, where you have a simple Gregorian calendar, and some planners have 2 years, so they have the current year and the coming year. This is last year's planner. And then they may have a year at a glance in a format a bit more like this. When I say year at a glance, I mean it's a half year at a glance. So it gives you a little bit more room to plan on that annual level. Also, some planners may have quarterly pages, and there'll be 4 of them if you've got the full year planner, but these are usually used for goal setting and tracking. So your printed planner may have both an annual layout and a quarterly planning section there. I'm going to make a bit of a guess here and say that most people don't plan at that level, that they plan at the monthly, weekly, daily level. Now, printed planners will often contain more than one time frame, but they will usually focus on one in particular. And by far the most common zoom lens for layouts is weekly. You also get dailies. The more difficult to come by is monthly. Some planners come with all of these and with a whole lot of room to do each one in detail, and I will get to that too. But I'm going to go through each zoom level of these 3 and explain what they're good for and what the most common layouts are. So a lot of planners will have a monthly layout that looks, I'll just get my fake plant out of the way, hang on. Now a monthly layout will often look like this. So it's a table format. This is clearly undated. Some monthlies may just be a list of the dates and the days down the side, and you just write down what happens on each day on each line. So where monthly is really great, it's for long-term planning as you go through the year. So when bills are due each month, when you have your holidays booked, when people have birthdays, any kind of recurring meeting or any social events. For example, I use my monthly spread, which is a kind of a combination messy dashboard plus a table. And I put a few priorities over here. I write down all the things that happen every single month, list down all the book covers I need to print by the end of the month for my reading journal, and then any other notes can go here. And then in the table format over here, I just note down any key days, any holidays, any key appointments that I really don't want to forget, and anything else that is of importance that shows up on a monthly basis. And then I can see at this high level, are there any clashes? Are there any very busy weeks where I need to be a little bit more organized than usual? And is there any free time for anything else? If, for example, I was booking a holiday, let's say I'm going to take the week before Anzac Day off, then I can write in here that I've taken that week off. I can see roughly how my time is going to be spent on a monthly basis. You can get planners with monthly dashboards, and then it just has blank pages after that. I do know there are people who like to use a monthly spread of some kind, either the full 2-page table or some kind of a dashboard like this, and then they just have blank pages after that, or they have task lists. If that is how you do your planning, you are most likely going to want something that looks like that rather than a weekly or daily breakdown. Something that you need to watch here, particularly at the monthly level but also at the weekly level, is do you prefer a Monday or a Sunday start? If you don't care, that's okay, but if you do care and you buy a printed planner for the whole year with the wrong start day, you are heading for a lot of frustration. So be aware of which way you prefer it, or if you prefer neither. There are a heap of weekly layouts. I'm going to look at the 3 big main ones: horizontal, vertical, and dashboard. So here's an example of a horizontal layout. This is from the Happy Planner. You have an equal sized box for each day, including Saturday, Sunday, and another extra box for notes. There is a big, broad horizontal space to write something down here, and then here it has some little boxes for a task list. and it's printed light enough that you could probably just write over it and ignore it if you didn't want to use it. As I said, Saturday and Sunday are exactly the same size. This isn't always the case. If you take a look at this, I think this is a Debden planner, and it's designed around the standard 5-day work week, Monday to Friday. So Saturday, Sunday has a much smaller box each, and the bulk of the space is dedicated to those work days. There is a very subtle gap in the lines there, and on one side you've got appointments, on the other side things to do. So you can use it as two separate columns each day, or you can just write all the way across it in a horizontal format as you see fit. So it's a little bit adaptable. There are also horizontal formats available where you have Monday to Sunday boxes all the way down the page on the left hand side, and on the right hand side is a blank page. What horizontal formats are good for is if you need more room to write information across the page rather than down the page. What you'll find is when you get to a vertical, as you'll soon see, is each column can become quite narrow and it's difficult to fit stuff in. So a horizontal format might be better for those if you need more room. So I use this horizontal format for work. It gives me lots of space for writing whatever my meetings and priorities are for each day across here. And then if I have any smaller tasks to do, like clearing out emails or whatever, then I can just quickly note them down here and then tick them off as I go. I found this to be a great layout. The only annoying thing about this is that Saturday and Sunday I don't work, so I don't use. So what I do is I just cover this up with a bit of whiteout tape, and I use this as a this week list, and this is the next week list. And then I have any notes down here. So the next type of weekly layout, it's the vertical layout. And in this vertical layout, you get a sidebar, and it has just a plain grid sidebar and then some notes here. And then it's a Monday start, Monday through Sunday across the top. And then each day has a column, and the column is divided into 3 identical sized boxes. And you can divide them up any way that you like. Maybe morning, afternoon, evening is the most obvious one, but there are many other options depending on what you want. Staying with the Happy Planner vertical layouts, I use many different versions of this layout in their various planners. This is the productivity layout, and this has the days of the week across the top as always. This is a dated one, so it has the month and the date. So you can write whatever general stuff you need for each day at the top, and then it has a timed column from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. below if you need more detail for each day in your weekly vertical layout. Happy Planner also does this layout, which is the checklist layout, which has a dot grid at the top, checklist in the middle, and a blank space at the bottom. So it's exactly the same as their standard vertical layout, but with a little bit more, I guess I'd say, printing and structure. So you have options like that. That's your Happy Planner options. So Sterling Ink also have vertical layouts, and they have a combination of your standard vertical plus your productivity layouts. You've still got the days of the week across the top. You have a little mini calendar up here on the left hand side, a bit of a sidebar, and depending on how you use it, a bit of room at the bottom as well. You have a little bit of room at the top of each day, maybe to put a couple of priorities or something like if it's a public holiday, you can put like Easter Monday or whatever. And then you have a column for each day that you can divide as you like. And then you have your times, and this goes from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. So it has 18 hours each day. And it's subtle enough that you can use it if you want to use it and not use it if you don't want to use it. So you can use your column for scheduling and appointments, for time blocking, etc. Or you can just use it as a general to-do list each day. It's great for people who have a lot of things happening at a particular time on a particular day, but you can still see everything at a weekly level. So it gives you that high level overview rather than being limited to daily. And we will get to daily, but first we're going to talk about the dashboard layout. It provides for a sort of bit more structure in planning your week outside the main 7 days. So for someone like me, I have a whole pile of things I need to do each week, and some things are important and I want to start planning ahead, but these things don't necessarily have to happen on a particular day at a particular time. So I'm going to write them over here. And then, of course, for the 2 or 3 things that I do have happening on a particular day, I will write them in here with the time, the place, and any other details that I need to know. I find this useful for that purpose. So the final layout is the daily. You can get a very simple daily layout. What I have here is the Sterling Ink daily layout, and it just has the date at the top. The wrong way around, it should be the 8th of November, just saying. And then it has the day and the year. And then on the left-hand side, it has an 18-hour timeline from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. And there is a whole page for each day. So you can split the page any way you like. You can have half the page for your time blocking or your appointments and meetings, and the other side of the page for your notes. Even though I use this for a different purpose, I split mine into a third and 2/3. And on this side, I do time tracking, and on this side, I do journaling. But that could equally be booking your meetings and appointments on this side, and then on this side, daily logging or notes or meeting notes that you have during the day can go on the right-hand side. So a page per day, and you can set it up in any format you want, or just use it as it comes blank. And like every other format, there are many other options for each Zoom. So this is a Happy Planner daily, and it's a lot more structured than the Sterling ink, which is quite typical. Sterling ink usually has very clean, streamlined layouts. Happy Planner provides a little bit more structure to each of their layouts, so you have a little space for a whole bunch of things. Today's focus: self-care, your date, and your 3 priorities. Reminders, I usually write on whatever meeting it is that I'm going to, and then here I do a task list. But this could just as easily be converted into a timeline if I needed it. So there are your time scales and a very broad view of some of the layouts. I know that there are another at least dozen different types of layouts for each one, but I'm just giving you a broad idea of what's available out there for you. And the good news, of course, is that you don't have to pick just one. Most printed planners will have at least 2 different formats plus an annual overview. So if we look at my daily planner, it has an annual overview, it has monthly spreads for each month of the year, and it has the daily spreads. The common planner takes it to another level again. You still have your year at a glance, you have your monthly spreads, you have weekly spreads. This happens to be a vertical weekly, and you have enough blank pages at the back for 1 page a day. It doesn't provide any dates or structure. It's just a simple blank page, and you can set it up and use it however you want. The Hobonichi Cousin does the same as the Sterling ink, except it has more color and more structure in its daily pages. But the sky is the limit. If you only need a daily and you don't need much else, you can find yourself a daily. If you need a week to view and nothing else, you'll be able to find one of those. It's quite rare to find a printed planner that has just one time frame. They'll often have an annual and a monthly, and then either the weekly or the daily, and then, as in this case, you may get all of them. And you are very rarely going to get one printed planner that fits everything exactly as you need it. So what I would do in that case is pick the level at which you do most your planning and focus on finding a printed planner that has that pretty much exactly as you want it. So let's move on to some of the other factors involved in choosing a printed planner. And I have covered a lot of these in a video that I did of how to pick a notebook. So you can watch that for further detail, but I will touch on them all briefly here. I will either link that video in the cards or at the end. So the first thing is cost. I used to put cost at the bottom. With the cost of living and petrol in particular, as I think we can all relate to, cost I think is becoming more of a factor for a lot of us. Now I am happy to splash out on a fancy schmancy planner if I'm going to keep it. So these Sterling ink planners, by the time I pay for them, convert them from New Zealand dollars to US dollars and get them shipped out here, they're about $100. And for me, that's worth it because these planners I keep. When it comes to just my standard everyday future planning, scribbling what I have coming up for the week, I will keep the pages for maybe about a year, and then they're going to be recycled. And it's not worth breaking the bank for something that's going to go to file 13. So think about what you are going to do with your planners when you're finished with it and adjust accordingly. So next one is size. This is what's known as a classic size. I have no idea what that is in centimeters, even though I live in a metric world. Pick a size that works for you. Can you carry it comfortably in your bag? Do you even need to carry it? If it sits on your desk all day and you never have to pick it up and take it anywhere further than, say, a meeting room, then you can go bigger if you need to. How much is it you need to write in it? You could get away with something smaller. If you're not sure, I would highly recommend an A5. It's the best of both worlds. There's plenty of room to write on the page, but it's not so big that it won't fit into a standard handbag or briefcase. Now, while I have these two sitting here together, the next thing is binding. Do you want a bound book, or do you want a system where you can take modules out, move pages around, in which case you're going to want something like rings or discs. The next thing to consider is the printing weight and spacing. So how dark is the printing? So if you take a look at the sterling ink, it's very subtly printed so that it doesn't get in the way of the content. If you want to use the timeline down the side, it's there and you can use it. If you want to ignore it, it doesn't interfere with the rest of the page. I also find line and grid spacing important. For example, my preferred lining is a college rule, which is it's about 7 millimeters, so it looks kind of like that. I would probably be really happy using just a plain old Collins day per page or week to view planner for work, but the lines are narrow ruled and they're really heavily printed. So I find those planners really difficult to use, so I stopped using them, which is why I've shifted more to this type of format. Other things to consider is paper weight. So your Hobonichi and your sterling inks are going to have your Tomoe paper, which is very thin paper. It is designed to withstand quite a lot of ink, so you can use fountain pens. I think there's a little bit of ghosting on the other pages, so if you don't like that, this isn't for you. Or you can have, I think this is 100 GSM, maybe 120. It's a slightly heavier paper type, so that can withstand some decent pens. And also when you're moving your pages around, it can take quite a bit of moving around without distorting. So depending on what you're using, you might want a heavier paper weight. Paper color is another factor. You've got your white pages and your cream pages. I don't know if you can see that so well, but they're very different colors. Some people hate cream pages, some people hate white pages, etc., etc. It's all up to you. And then you need to take into account all your added extras. Do you need a pen loop? Do you want marker ribbons? Do you need extra pockets in the back? Do you need, for example, like this one, do you need it in a folder with a zip? This was my planner when I was doing field work, and it was great to be able to just throw all my notes in there in whatever condition they were in, zip it up, chuck this in the ute, and then head back to the office knowing that I had all my stuff safe in here, and then I could sort it out when I got back to my desk. So have a think about all those things. If you are unsure about what you need, this is the time of year when 2026 planners are actually going quite cheap. So it's your chance to snap a few of those up for not a lot of money and try out a whole pile of different layouts and see what it is that you like and what suits you. When it comes time to buy your planner, you have a much better idea of what's going to work for you. Alternatively, buy undated. This is an undated happy planner. It has a monthly layout, and then this of course is a vertical layout, and you can date it and use it as you like. Another trick to try is to do some mock-ups of the format that you're thinking about buying. So for example, last year before I committed to buying this expensive daily planner with its layout that looked like this, I used the back of my common planner to mock up a few layouts and to make sure that I enjoyed using this type of layout. So I did that, I don't know, maybe August last year, and decided that yes, what I wanted was a daily planner, so then I could commit to buying it. Another thing to try if you really don't know what you're going to need but you do still want a printed planner is to just draw something out yourself and decide what is going to work for you. So when I first became a people leader, I had no idea what level of planning I had to do, and I would just each day I would turn to a page and I would divide it up into the days of the week, and then I'd have a task list at the bottom with whatever had to be done, and then I would just use it like that. And it pretty much looked like that and I did that for about 3 months until I decided if that system was working for me and if I needed anything else. Sometimes you need to just take the cheap and easy pathway to figure out what it is that's going to work for you before going out and buying a whole pile of planners that you're not going to use. So with that beautiful weekly layout as the finishing shot, that's all I have for you today, and I hope you have a great fortnight, and I will see you next time.